A young girl walking her dog on a summer beach should be an idyllic image. But in July of 1974, one young girl doing precisely that was faced with something no child should see: the naked, decomposing body of a woman. Her skull had been smashed, her hands were absent, and the head had been nearly severed from her body. This Provincetown Jane Doe is better known as the Lady of the Dunes. There is a plaque in St. Peter's Cemetery in Provincetown, Massachusetts that simply reads, "Unidentified female body found Race Point Dunes, July 26, 1974. Buried there is a woman without a name, whose past and killer are unknown, whose family has never been notified of her passing." That July, 9-year-old Sandra Lee, today a crime writer, was camping with her family in the Race Point Dunes. She was walking her dog the morning of July 26th and saw a body in the brush. A terrified child, she was too frightened to report what she had seen to police, or so she later told reporters, and she believed others had come across the body as well. It was ultimately another person, unnamed but allegedly a 13-year-old girl, who reported the gruesome scene. Police found a naked woman, badly decomposed, with her hands missing and a vicious wound in her neck, as though an attempt had been made to sever it. Several of her teeth were missing, though she had extensive dental work, the cost of which would have gone into thousands of dollars, and would still be identifiable to the dentist who performed the procedures, and was described as the New York style of dental work. There was blunt force trauma to the left side of her head as well, crushing the skull and officially named the cause of death. While there were signs of sexual assault, it is believed this was done post-mortem with a chunk of wood. No weapon was found at the location where the body was found. The Lady of the Dunes, or the Lady in the Dunes as she is sometimes known, was found face down on half of a light green heavy cotton beach blanket believed to have come from the Crown and Anchor, according to one source. Beneath her head were a pair of Wrangler jeans and a blue bandana. She had long red or auburn hair, bound back in a ponytail with an elastic band. Her toenails were painted pink. Because of the degree of decomposition, it has been difficult for a decisive composite to be developed, but some of those developed over the years are on screen now. This composite, developed in 2010 by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, is based on digital imaging from CT scans of the Lady of the Dunes skull, with speculative imaging based on exact hair, skin, and eye color. Though she is known to be Caucasian, exact coloring was unable to be determined due to the condition of the body when it was found. This is another composite, again with speculative coloring, and shows the victim with and without freckles. She was described as having an athletic build. Based on the rate of decay, time of death was placed 10 days to 3 weeks prior to discovery. She was estimated to be between 20 and 40 years of age and 5 foot 6 inches to 5 foot 8 inches tall, or 168 to 173 centimeters. She weighed 145 pounds, or approximately 66 kilograms. There were no signs of a struggle. This has led to speculation that the Lady of the Dunes either knew her killer or was asleep at the time of the attack. According to the Provincetown Police Department, the device used to nearly decapitate her was similar to a military entrenching tool. Because the hands were severed, it is believed the woman had been fingerprinted at some point in her past, perhaps due to a criminal record. Curiously, though several of the Lady of the Dunes' teeth were removed, among those that remained were teeth with gold crowns, whose value was speculated to be between $5,000 and $10,000 at the time. So, though the lady was found without jewelry, it seems unlikely that robbery was a motive, and the removal of teeth was done only to hinder identification. Neither the hands nor the missing teeth have ever been located. No one came forward to identify the lady. No one reported a missing person matching her description. In a 2014 article by Sam Baltrusis in the Boston Spirit magazine, crime writer Sandra Lee put forth her theory that the Lady of the Dunes was an immigrant from Ireland, perhaps illegally brought into the country, given her coloring and the fact that no one was looking for her. Lee also believed that the lady had been killed elsewhere and deposited where she was ultimately found. Though the Lady of the Dunes was ultimately buried in October of 1974, she has been exhumed twice to collect more evidence, in 1980 and then again in 2000 when DNA was collected. Because of this DNA, one missing woman was ruled out as being the Lady of the Dunes, jail escapee Rory Jean Kessinger, and missing woman Frances Collier Ewald has also been eliminated as a match. Allegedly, in 1987, a woman in Canada told her friend about watching her father strangle a woman in Massachusetts in the early 70s, but authorities have never been able to locate this woman. Another unknown woman claimed the Lady of the Dunes resembled her sister, who had gone missing in Boston at the correct time, but this too has gone nowhere. In 2004, serial killer Haddon Clark, known as the cross-dressing cannibal, confessed to killing a woman on a beach on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and sent a letter to a friend that included a drawing of a naked woman lying on her stomach and missing her hands, as well as a map to where the body was found. He allegedly said, "I could have told the police what her name was, but after they beat the shit out of me, I wasn't going to tell them shit. This murder is still unsolved, and what the police are looking for is in my grandfather's garden." However, Clark suffers from paranoid schizophrenia and has previously confessed to unsubstantiated murders, causing police to doubt his credibility. He is not, so far as I've been able to determine, considered a person of interest, much less a suspect in this crime. Another serial killer known to be in the area of Provincetown was Anton Charles Costa, but he was eliminated as a suspect by the best possible alibi. Costa committed suicide on May 12, 1974, and the Lady of the Dunes was killed in July of that year. One possible scenario has gained some measure of notice, and as odd as it may sound, it is still a possibility, given how little is known about the Lady of the Dunes. In 2015, thriller novelist Joe Hill was watching the movie Jaws, which is his favorite film. As he did, he noticed an extra in one of the crowd scenes. There was a woman who resembled an unidentified murder victim he had recently read about, wearing a blue bandana and jeans. She had long red hair. Jaws was filmed in Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts, the same summer the Lady of the Dunes was found, a city less than 3 hours away from Provincetown, according to Google Maps. It is also worth mentioning that Hill had recently read Deborah Halber's The Skeleton Crew: How Amateur Sleuths Are Solving America's Coldest Cases. I don't mean to discount the abilities of amateur sleuths at all. While amateur sleuths have a proven efficacy, having helped solve crimes in the past, I also know the dangers of looking at a police composite and thinking you see a familiar face therein. So while it is definitely a possibility, it is one that requires more research and information. I'm not calling it a false lead by any means, but it is an uncertain one. One name that consistently surfaces when researching the Lady of the Dunes is that of James Bulger, better known as Whitey. Whitey Bulger was a strange man, described as a man of contradictions. As a child, he once ran away to join the circus and was known in his Boston neighborhood as both a street tough and a helper and protector of the less fortunate. He allegedly would buy groceries for widows and give out turkeys at Thanksgiving. However, he grew up to be a notorious member of the Irish Mafia in Boston. He spent time in prison, including San Francisco's infamous Alcatraz, after a series of bank robberies, but returned to Boston after serving 9 years of his 25-year sentence. He was an enforcer for Donald Killeen until Killeen's death in 1972, then joined the Winter Hill Gang, where he was allegedly responsible for a number of murders. Ultimately, when the gang's leader, Howie Winter, was sent to prison in 1979, Bulger took control. By the time he'd become a leader, he had taken advantage, too, of his younger brother's political career and his youthful connections with men who had grown up to be police officers, and became an FBI informant. This also allowed him to take down other crime organizations, potentially securing more advantages for his own gang. In 1994, though, supposedly 4 years after Bulger's informant days had ended, the DEA, state police, and city officials were beginning to turn toward Bulger's own crimes and to build a case against him. but Bulger was tipped off before they could make their move. After fleeing Boston and evading arrest, Bulger landed a place on the FBI's most wanted list. He was captured after 11 years on the run and ultimately convicted of 11 murders. He is currently serving 2 life sentences plus 5 years. Though the truths of Whitey Bulger's life are hard to pin down, with many allegations tossed around but unconfirmed, there are several reasons to consider him with regards to the Lady of the Dunes, and he is still considered by police a person of interest. First, Bulger was allegedly seen around Provincetown in the company of a woman matching the description of the Lady of the Dunes. Second, one of Bulger's unconfirmed but suspected victims was Debbie Davis, whose body was also found in a marshy area with both hands and some teeth removed. Third, according to Sandra Lee, her stepfather worked with Bulger, who she knew as Uncle Jimmy, and her father was camped only about 15 feet and uphill from where the woman's body was found. She stated to Baltrusis, "It was too coincidental that we camped there. If you rolled off the embankment, there she was." Lee further speculated that it was fear of Bulger that kept people from coming forward with information. And, going back to the military entrenching tool believed to contribute to the lady's death, Bulger had served in the U.S. Air Force and, despite being jailed for going AWOL, received an honorable discharge in 1952. Some sources also speculate that Bulger was involved in human trafficking and prostitution, which could explain both how the Lady of the Dunes entered the United States, assuming she came from a foreign country, and how she might have acquired a criminal record. While Whitey Bulger remains in prison, he has never, to my knowledge, made any confession or allusions to the Lady of the Dunes. After the 2000 exhumation of the Lady of the Dunes, it was discovered that her original casket was deteriorating, and a 2014 article in the Boston Globe mentions the, at least at the time, lead investigator, Detective Meredith K. Lober, trying to raise funds for a new one for the unidentified woman. There are dental charts and DNA available for the Lady of the Dunes, and if you are or know a dentist, perhaps retired, familiar with the New York style of dental work, though my investigation has not turned up what that precisely means, please consider contacting the Provincetown Police Department to examine the records. This woman had extensive dental work done, including multiple gold crowns, and it may even have been done overseas. If you were in the area of Provincetown in June or July of 1974 and have any information that might help the police solve this case, please contact them at 508-487-1212. If you wish to remain anonymous, you can contact the Provincetown Crime Line at 508-487-2828. Please remember in your comments that these are real stories about real people, and treat them with the respect that they and their families, whoever they are, deserve. If you have any information to offer regarding this case, the contact details can also be found in the description below. Someone out there knows the truth. I only hope that someday they come forward. Thank you, and good night.